Nang matalo ang mga Pilipino laban kay Governor General Primo, ay nagpatuloy ang paghihirap ng mga Pilipino. Some of the Filipinos continued to engage with the Spanish and they built Macabulos or Republic in Tarlac. Emilio Aguinaldo is the one who led Filipinos during the battles of 1896, and he believed that the America is the great ally of the Filipinos. But the intention of the Americans is not to protect Filipinos but to stay and eventually took over as the new colonial master. The Queen of Spain rewarded Governor General Primo the Grand Cross of San Fernando and a 10,000 pesos of pension dahil napahinto niya ang isang duguang labanan, and it sent General Basilio Agustin para panalo laban kay Primo. He had a good intentions that he will make Filipinos rebels return to Spain as a faithful subjects. Dahil kung ikukumpara si Primo at Agustin, ay maraming alam si Primo sa Pilipinas kaysa kay Agustin. On April 9, 1898, Agustin arrived in Manila and the following day, Primo turned over the reins of government to him. Ang Cuban Revolution ay nakimpatya sa mga taga-Amerika dahil sa malaki ang utang na loob nila rito. A lot of American influential once war with Spain, like Theodore Roosevelt, is one of them. He became an assistant secretary of the Navy. Para mapatuloy ang plano ni Roosevelt noong 1898, nakipag-usap siya sa commander ng American Asiatic Squadron na si Commodore George Dewey to make the Hong Kong as the base of operations since malapit lang ito sa Manila.
On the same day that war with Spain was declared, Dewey received a message by cable from the Secretary of War. Dewey ordered his fleet to sail for Manila Bay. Quietly, his fleet entered the bay in the early morning hours of May 1, 1898. During the Spanish-American War, the American Asiatic Squadron under Commodore George Dewey engaged and destroyed the Spanish Pacific Squadron under Contra-Almirante Patricio Montojo. Dahil sa lokasyon nito malapit sa Timog Silangang Asya, ito ay naging mahalaga sa komersyo noong 1571. Nagsimulang magtayo ng mga kuta ang mga kolonisador ng Espanya sa lugar na kasalukuyang Maynila. Noong 1574, ang pirata ng China na si Lim Ah Hong ay pumasok sa bay na may lakas na halos 3,000 ngunit pinatalsik ng mga Persang Espanya. The signal for firing was given and the guns of all the American ships burst with. The Battle of Manila Bay was one-sided, and by 12:30 in the afternoon, Admiral Montojo's fleet was already destroyed. The Spaniards raised the white flag in Cavite as a sign of surrender. Ang mga taong Amerikano ay magpapangilabot sa kasiyahan dahil sa tagumpay ni Dewey. Ang tagumpay ni Dewey ay kalat at rinig na sa buong mundo. Ngunit sa kabila nito'y hindi pa rin nila alam kung nasaan ang Pilipinas. Most of the Americans thought it was part of China. It was said that ang bansang Amerika ay magbubukas ng mga libro ng heograpiya to locate the Philippines in the map. It was early of April 1898 when rumors had already reached Manila that war between Spain and the United States was to be declared anytime. In Hong Kong, Aguinaldo felt that in case of war, ito ay magandang oportunidad na mapaalis nila ang mga Espanyol sa Pilipinas. Ngunit, Aguinaldo was in trouble. Kaya, naglayag si Aguinaldo patungong Singapore upang makaiwas ng demanda na isinampa laban sa kanya ni Isabelo Artacho and other revolutionaries na naghahangad na makuha ang kanilang iba't ibang mga gusto. Isabelo Artacho, as one of the plagiarists of the Cuban Constitution, went in Hong Kong and demanded Aguinaldo to divide the 400,000 pesos indemnity na binigay ng colonial government to the rebels. Aguinaldo think of using the 400,000 to buy arms and ammunition to fight the Spaniards because he did not want to divide the money. Artacho asked for his share but Aguinaldo refused. Felipe Agoncillo advised Aguinaldo to leave Hong Kong to avoid scandal with Gregorio del Pilar and Jose Leiva. Artacho, who was now a paid agent of the Spanish Embassy in Hong Kong, sued Aguinaldo in the Hong Kong Supreme Court. Artacho's purpose was to force Aguinaldo to divide money. Aguinaldo would not be able to buy any arms and ammunition because the money is divided among the rebels. Artacho's court suit did not materialize because of the departure of Aguinaldo for Singapore.
The interview with Pratt. Aguinaldo and his companions arrived in Singapore on April 23, 1898. Aguinaldo arrived that afternoon. An Englishman, Howard Bray, who had lived in the Philippines in a long time, came to visit Aguinaldo. This was a surprise visit because Aguinaldo came to Singapore incognito and we thought nobody knew his arrival because it is a surprise. Bray said that the American consul at Singapore, Spencer Pratt, wanted to have an interview with Aguinaldo. After that, Bray was acting as interpreter because Pratt did not know speak Spanish and Aguinaldo did not know speak English. The request was granted, and during the interview, Pratt told Aguinaldo through interpreter Bray that Aguinaldo should side with the Americans. Then, when Aguinaldo expressed his doubt, Pratt told him not to worry because the United States, which was near Cuba, had no desire to take as colony. The Philippines was very far from the U.S., so how interested in colonizing the Philippines? Moreover, the Americans will leave Cuba as soon as the Spaniards have been driven away. In other words, Pratt assured Aguinaldo the U.S. have no intention to the Philippines colonize. Aguinaldo agreed to return in the Philippines to renew his hostilities against the Spaniards. Pratt made all the arrangement for Aguinaldo's return to Hong Kong. Therefore, he was also told that the United States would not recognize any claims made by Aguinaldo. Based on their conversation, your action was unauthorized and cannot be approved. Pratt was later dismissed from the U.S. consular service, but he did not make this clear to Aguinaldo. He even offered to work from U.S. recognition of the Philippines government. Aguinaldo not only agreed to this proposal, he even considered offering Pratt a position in the Philippines customs as well as commercial privileges when his government was recognized. Aguinaldo and Wild Men. On April 26, 1898, Aguinaldo and his companions sailed for Hong Kong. Dewey had already left for Manila when Aguinaldo arrived in the British colony. Therefore, he was disappointed. However, the American consul at Hong Kong, Reasonville Wildman, told him that Dewey had left. Instruction for the return of Aguinaldo to the Philippines, Wildman later told Aguinaldo to establish a dictatorial government in the Philippines so that he could easily steps to continue the revolution against Spain. But after the hostilities, Aguinaldo should establish a government like that of the United States. Having been won over by Wildman's frankness, Aguinaldo entrusted him to purpose. We gave Wildman the sum of 50,000 pesos. Later, he gave Wildman 67,000 pesos for the purchase of more arms and ammunition. The first shipment of arms and ammunition costing 50,000 pesos was consummated, but the second transaction, which costed 67,000 pesos, was never realized. There was no record that Wildman returned the money.
My topic is all about the Hong Kong junta. Nang magwagi si Dewey sa laban ng Manila Bay at ang balita tungkol dito ay nakarating sa lahat ng bahagi ng mundo. Nagpulong ang mga Pilipinong makabayan sa Hong Kong upang talakayin ang mga hakbang na gagawin upang sakupin ang Pilipinas. Ang mga Pilipinong makabayang ito ang bumuo ng Hong Kong junta. Ang mga naroon sa pagpupulong ay nabatid na ang Aguinaldo ay bumalik sa Hong Kong at sa gayon napagpasyahan nilang pansamantalang magpaliban upang
batiin si Aguinaldo. Nang dumating si Aguinaldo sa lugar ng pagpupulong, niyakap siya ng lahat. Sinabi niya sa Hong Kong junta ang tungkol sa panayam niya kay Pratt at Wildman. Sinabi ni Aguinaldo sa junta na ang sitwasyon sa Pilipinas ay seryoso at humingi ng kanilang opinyon tungkol sa bagay na ito. Nagkaroon ng palitan ng mga pananaw at ang junta ay nagkasabay na nagpasya ng Aguinaldo ay dapat bumalik sa Pilipinas. Pangungunahan niya muli ang mga Pilipino laban sa mga Espanyol. My second topic is all about ang pagbabalik ni Aguinaldo. Tinanggap ni Aguinaldo ang hinangad ng Huanta sapagkat siya ay may pananampalataya at tiwala sa mga kasapi nito. Lahat sila ay lubos na may edukasyon at makabayan ng mga Pilipino. Ang mga miyembro ng junta, bukod sa iba pa, ay sina Felipe Anastasio Francisco, Mariano Lanera, Miguel Marbar, Andres Garcitorena, Severo Buenaventura, Maximo Cabigting, Cristino Lisiaco, at Antonio Montenegro. Noong May 18, 1898, sumakay si Aguinaldo sa cutter ng kita ng Amerika na si McCulloch na patungo sa Manila. Dumating ang barko sa Manila Bay makalipas ang 2 araw. Kaagad inilipat siya sa Dewey's flagship, ang Olympia, kung saan binigyan siya ng mga pabor dahil sa isang general ng hukbo. Ayon kay Aguinaldo, habang nakasakay siya sa Olympia, tiniyak sa kanya ni Dewey na hindi kailangan ng mga kolonya ng Estados Unidos. Dewey na naitaas sa Rear Admiral, tiniyak sa kanya na kilalanin ang Estados Unidos ang kalayaan ng mga Pilipino. Sa paglaon ay tinanggihan ni Dewey na gumawa ng anumang pangako kay Aguinaldo at ang kanyang pakikipag-ugnay sa pinuno ng Pilipino ay pulos personal, hindi opisyal.